But because the intent of the divine law is principally for this, that man may adhere to God. But man clings most powerfully to God through love. It is necessary that the intent of the divine law be principally directed to love. Now it is clear that man clings to God most of all through love. For there are two things in man by which he can cling to God, namely the understanding and the will. For according to the lower parts of the soul he cannot cling to God, but to lower things. Now the adhesion which is through the intellect receives its completion through that which is of the will, because through the will man rests in a certain way in what the intellect apprehends. But the will clings to a thing either because of love or because of fear, but differently. For he clings to that to whom he clings because of fear. He clings to him for another reason, namely, that he may avoid the evil which, if he does not cling to him, threatens. But to whom he clings for love's sake, he clings for his own sake. But what is for its own sake is more important than what is for the sake of something else. Therefore, the adherence of love to God is the most powerful way of adhering to him. Again, the purpose of any law, and especially of God's, is to make men good. Now a man is called good because he has a good will, by which he brings into action whatever is good in him. Now the will is good from that which wills good, and especially the greatest good, which is the end. Therefore, the more the will desires this kind of good, the more a man is good. But a man wills more what he wills out of love than what he wills out of fear alone. For what he wills out of fear alone is said to be mixed with the involuntary. Just as someone wants to throw goods into the sea because of fear, therefore the love of the highest good, that is, of God, makes the most good, and is the most intent in the divine law. In addition, the goodness of man is through virtue, for it is virtue that makes the possessor good. Hence also the law intends to make men virtuous, and the precepts of the law are about acts of virtue. But it is a condition of virtue that the virtuous work both firmly and delightfully. And this is what love does most. For out of love we do something firmly and delightfully. Therefore the love of good is the last intent in the divine law. Still legislators, by the command of the law issued, move those to whom the law is given. But in all things that are moved by some first mover, something is moved more perfectly the more it participates in the motion of the first mover and in his likeness. But God, who is the giver of the divine law, does all things because of his love. He, therefore, who tends towards him in this way, namely by loving, is most perfectly moved towards him. But every agent aims at perfection in what he does. This, then, is the end of all legislation, that man may love God. Hence it is said in 1 Timothy 1:5, the end of the commandment is charity. And Matthew 22, it is said that the first and greatest commandment in the law is, you shall love the Lord your God. This is also why the new law, as if more perfect, is called the law of love. But the old law, as if more imperfect, is called the law of fear.